first off, actually, introduce yourself. Who are you? What you about? Obviously, I'm Trev, Minister Trev. I'm just the guy. But you, pastor of Enhance and everything, like let people know who you are.
I'm just a guy.
Man, cut it out. Cut it out.
Well, no, pastor of Enhance Church, and I've pastored it for a very long time. I started a church when I was 16.
Nice.
And I'm a husband, father, and I have a dog.
So
that's it.
So what year did you start the church? What year did you start Enhance?
I don't remember, man. I really don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember the year. I know I was 16.
Okay.
And I'm 40 now.
All right.
So what year was that?
So we just gonna say.
What year was it?
Wait,
I'm not good at math. I've never been a trustee.
Never been a trustee. Listen, you just know how to lead the people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all that matters. Let's start with just, so you spent time obviously in the church, starting building Enhance to what it is now, a very impactful church here in Newark, New Jersey. Talk to me about just some of the changes and things like that you've seen just in church and how it's done. Because I think right now we're in the middle of a really big transition when you think about just like generations in terms of what people in your age group who are in like that 40 and up age, like what they're used to church being. Yeah. Then you have people who are in my age group. I'm 28, so who are in that like call it 20 to 30 range. Right. How they want to experience church is totally different. What are you seeing? How are you navigating it? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I come from a very traditional church. Mm-hmm. You couldn't wear certain things to church. You definitely couldn't wear a hat backwards. You couldn't wear a hat inside.
I was saying that's your staple. So how you navigate that? What made that decision?
Well, I had to reinvent myself. I knew that I wanted to reach the unchurched population.
That's good.
And I felt like, I sat down with myself and I wondered, well, what are some reasons why people don't come to church? And one of the reasons was they felt like church was a fashion show and you had to be a particular way in order to be accepted. So I thought, well, let me just be who I am on Saturday. I always wore my hat backwards on Saturday. And I felt like if they see the pastor dressed how he's dressed, it will make them feel more comfortable. So it was a conscious decision on my part to change my church image to be more relatable, and it's worked.
That's dope.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of, like, I always appreciate just like how like simple tweaks.
Yeah.
Because I think that is definitely one of the bigger changes in church where you think it went from 3-piece suits and big hats and dresses that, like you said, had to be a certain length and everything like that.
Yeah.
Now it's ripped jeans, it's sneakers, it's hats, it's, like the whole style of it's different.
Right.
What do you think? So let me add context to it. One of the things that I'm starting to see from like the older generation when they I guess they see what the modern church is now, they almost view it as like a watered down gospel type of thing.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that? Just in terms of like,
well, I know that if I would have saw myself years ago and I saw me, I would have said he's reprobate. I would have said he's bringing the world into the church. Mm-hmm. He's going too far left. I look at it now as I live more holier now than I did when I had my suit and my tie on. You get what I'm saying? And the Bible says, come as you are. He's not looking at our outward appearance. He's looking at our heart. And if more souls, I've reached more people being like this than I did in my role. And so I feel like if I'm accomplishing the mission of Jesus Christ, and that's a great thing, and they look down on anything. So church people, the traditional church people, they look down on everything. Sure. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, at some point you have to feel like if I'm pleasing God, I can't please man.
That's a fact. I like that because it's about keeping the main thing the main thing.
The main thing.
And I'm big on that, where it's like, listen, as long as people are coming to know Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How it happens to me doesn't really matter. Like, as long as it's not actually watered down, as long as it's not deceiving in any way, shape, or form, where you just listen, I'm delivering you Jesus.
Right.
Even if I'm wearing my hat backwards, even if I'm wearing, because you dress. Yeah. I told you that, when I come to hang out with you, I got to actually really think about my wardrobe.
Well, that's what you have to do when you're overweight. See, if I was physically fit like you, I wouldn't have to do all of that.
You are hilarious for that. But so when you think about, obviously, this transition in church, where you said it, right? You're living holier now.
Yeah.
How have you seen that translate just to your congregation, just like from obviously you being the leader, right?
Yeah,
As
yeah.
pastors, we're first partakers of any message that God has. How have you seen that translate to your people in terms of like we'll say the way in which they live their lives?
Well, man, I see a lot of change. I'm very close to our members, so I get to hear conversations. I get to see it in their lives. They come to Bible study.
Right.
I mean, 95% of our church had either never gone to church or had stopped going.
Oh, wow.
So to see them constantly come, and not only do they come, but they're fishers of men. They invite their family, they invite their friends, people that they work with, and then their lives have changed. I mean, you can literally see it, and I hear the testimonies.
Right.
And it's incredible what's going on, man. And sometimes you have to go to where people are to save them. To the Jew, I became Jew. To the Greek, that I became Greek. To those under the law, I became under the law. And so that's what I've learned how to do. I've learned how to become to all men that I might win them.
That's good. So now let's go deeper on that point in terms of, okay, you're going out to the people.
Yes.
What are some of the, we'll say, issues, some of the obstacles that you're seeing today are stopping people from taking that leap to be fishers of men and everything like that?
Yeah, well, it's the church hurt. It's what happened in my grandmother's church, what happened in my father's church. A lot of people love God, they just don't trust the church. And you have to change the culture. So it's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of stuff that happened in the past. It's the representation of God that those back in the day had that kind of turned them off from God. So that's what I see.
So how does someone deal with that then? Like let's talk about, because I think it's a good topic.
Yeah.
When you think about church hurt, how does someone even identify that they're even operating in church hurt? Let's start there.
I think when they keep bringing up what happened in the past at their church, I think we make a big deal of church hurt. To be honest with you, you get hurt at the supermarket. You get hurt at the gas station. You know what I mean? It's just really the enemy's way to keep us from receiving truth, to keep us, and I'm not saying that it's not valid, but it could be something to stop you from furthering your growth in God as well.
One of the things that I've seen is there's a lot of, I'll call them spiritual Christians, meaning that I don't need to go to church.
Yeah.
It's just me and God at home.
Yeah.
I'm stream on YouTube a sermon, but I'm just real spiritual in my relationship with God. I don't need to be around people.
Right.
Like, what are your thoughts on those Christians? The online Christians, I think that's what the
Bedside Baptist.
bedside Baptist. That's what it is.
Well, I think they're misinformed. We were never meant to do life alone. The Bible says, don't make a habit of missing church. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name, there he is in the midst. How can you hear without a preacher? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that what we have to do, we have to reach them and we have to give them new information. And so when people come here, they come with the same mentality. It's just that there's something about my anointing that reaches them and bring them here. And when they get here, I give them information. Information plus application equals transformation.
That's good.
And so I give them the information for them to transform their life. And when they're transformed, they bring other people and then they feel, you know what? Church is not that bad. It's just how you present it to people.
Yeah. Well, what I find too, I think an option that a lot of people who deal with church hurt, what they seem to always miss, you could just find another church.
Exactly.
Like it could be as simple as we'll just go to a different church.
Absolutely.
Like because I hear people all the time, like people have no problem criticizing church today. They have no problem criticizing the church, the members, the pastor, the this, the that. And it's just like, if it's that bad, like you could just go to another one.
They go to another barber. They go to another beautician.
Right. It's a simple thing. And I love how you
man. They go to another man.
Well, listen, they make changes, but it seems like in the church, it's like it's a one and done. I don't like that place. It's not good. But it's like you could probably go 20 minutes in any direction and find another church. And like even if obviously we're in non-denominational churches, but it's like any type of church you look that you would worship at, you could go any direction and find another one. It's that simple. Like it doesn't, like I think sometimes people will make the excuse to stay stuck for no reason.
And with the internet now,
Yeah.
70% of our people found us online. So you can, if you want to get there, you'll get to church.
Facts. Yeah. So talk more about the healing of the church hurt. So like,
Yeah.
we talked about how, okay, if someone finds themselves bringing up the past, right? Past situation at a church or
Yeah.
past offense,
Yeah.
whatever it is, once they identify it, how would they then get past it? Like, how do you get past? Because to your point, I've heard some stories with church hurt, and it's real, it's deep. It's,
I
it's
was church hurt.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, I was church hurt, man. The church can be a battleground if you have the wrong perception of church. I wasn't taught. I didn't realize that broken people go to church. And just because you're anointed, just because you sing, just because you're gifted, doesn't mean that this person doesn't have an issue. Doesn't mean that, you get what I'm saying, they're not broken. No one taught us that.
Right.
If you taught us that, and when someone acts out of their flesh, we'll be able to understand this. But we were misinformed. So, my pastor hurt me. And now that I'm looking at it, I chose to focus on the good that my pastor did instead of the one time they did something to hurt me.
Yeah.
So that's how I got over it. What good did this church do for me?
That's important. A lot of people miss that part.
They never talk about that.
Never. They would love to.
Yeah.
They got no problem when they behind on rent. They need the church to fill them, help them out. They got no problem. Hey, I need some food. Can the church help? Everything like that. And this is going on for years.
Pastor can pray for you.
Yeah.
I've prayed for people. I've paid college tuitions for people. I paid their rent. I mean, I've done a lot. And when you do one thing, I became the devil.
Yeah. And I think it all just boils down to people's maturity. And like, I mean, we got to be real about it. Like sometimes I think it just boils down to just people's maturity. I think that perception, like in terms of how they perceive the church is important because, man, I can't tell you that I think that would solve probably 90% of church hurt.
And give people grace.
Oh, because
know that they're anointed, but they're human.
Right.
And that they're doing their best to represent God, but they're not God.
Yeah, they're not perfect.
They're not perfect.
None of us, especially pastors.
Especially pastors. Well, I'm almost there.
You?
No. You're laughing, but I am really almost perfect.
Okay, explain. How? I want to get. See, now I'll put you on the spot.
No, I need God every day.
Don't we all?
Absolutely.
Don't we all? So how do you? I appreciate you sharing that. So you, as a pastor now, is there anything that you do, anything that you're intentional about to make sure that you don't, we'll say, inflict, cause, create that same type of church hurt for any one of your members? Like, is that like, does that make sense? Like from your past experience of church hurt where you said it came from my pastor, does that in any way impact how you pastor now?
It does. And I've hurt people when I was immature. So what I do now, first of all, I'm myself. I'm totally myself. And I'm myself on purpose because I want what you see. What you see is what you get. So I don't have to pretend. If whatever you see, you get. You like me, you don't. So I think it's being authentic. That's one thing a pastor should be. And most of them are not. A lot of times they become what they think people want them to be. Mm. You get what I'm saying? And then when someone finds out that there's something different, then they're offended in that. Another thing that I do, I try to put myself in our members' place. I try to understand what it's like to be them and where they come from and their dad and their mom. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times when you just love people and you care for people, and I don't know if every pastor does, but I try to give them grace. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And I die. I'm not a patient person, by nature. So I don't have, petty stuff and all that stuff. It drives me crazy. And I don't want my impatience to affect someone else. So what I try to do is, this person doesn't know I'm impatient. This person doesn't know they're getting on my nerves. This person doesn't have a clue that I'm tired. I try to give them grace as a pastor and bring them up instead of allowing them to bring me down.
So how do you, in that grace, stay productive?
Because I don't go beyond, I never let it drain me. You get what I'm saying? I give them grace. But I know when it's making me ineffective. If it starts to make me ineffective, then I don't operate in that any
Yeah,
longer.
I find the reason why I ask it because like I find that when you give people grace, particularly when you're in any position of leadership, because
Right.
this applies in the church world, it applies in business, whatever.
Yeah.
You can give someone so much grace, where that grace can turn into like coddling. That grace can turn into, okay, I'm like babying you, and you're not growing.
Right.
And I think what I was reading. I want to say it was in Ephesians or is either Titus or Ephesians, where it talks about the pastor's role, just in the church context, is for the church to grow and the people to grow.
Absolutely.
And so I find in my young pastoral career, that balance of that grace that you're talking about, but also where it's like, okay, I can't give you so much grace to the point where I'm hindering your own growth. Like I find,
absolutely.
How do you balance that? Like I know you said, one of the things is, when you or the church or in any facet becomes ineffective or ineffective, like is there other things that kind of let you know, like, all right, this is how much grace I need to give?
Yeah, well, first I pray about every conversation I'm about to have. I've learned that. I've been doing it a long time. So I've learned to pray about it. I've learned to, okay, God, show me who I'm dealing with. Because when I know your spirit, I know how to deal with you. You get what I'm saying? You don't know I know your spirit, but I know you're bringing to me your spirit. So I want to deal with your spirit.
Let's go.
And if it's a person that I just know wants attention or just wants to waste my time, I give you minimum time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's all about knowing who you're talking to, knowing what they need, and knowing your capacity. You get what I'm saying? I might not have the capacity to handle your situation. And so what I've learned to do is I've learned to know my capacity. There's some times where I'll talk to our members. There's sometimes I may send them to a therapist.
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And too, I think that's why I think as pastors, it's important that we develop leaders.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, as churches grow, the reality is, we can't talk to everybody. We're not going to personally know everybody. While we still have a heart for everybody, and we still have a heart for everyone to come to know Jesus and thrive and live in abundance, all of that. The reality is we just don't have that bandwidth to know, okay, you who come to church once a month and I know your entire story. I know your mama, your grandmama, your kids versus like it just the reality. So I think in what you're saying, it makes me think about just how important it is that even if us as pastors, we don't have that capacity to speak to, and obviously like we'll talk to everybody, but in terms of like really deep dive, a conversation, a topic, whatever, to have those pass off points. And for you said, you'll send your people to therapists and just the appropriate people.
Because you'll burn yourself out. And see, I was there, like I said, I've been pastoring a long time and I burnt myself out trying to be to everyone what they wanted me to be. And a lot of people will leave the church when they feel as though the pastor is no longer able to be intimate. I'm not able to go to baby showers. I'm not able to go to birthday parties. There was a time where I was able to do that. Now it's impossible. To do so. And I think the members need to be understanding that the church does not revolve around them.
Yeah. I love that. So talk about just the expectations, because I think that is something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's why we're here having this conversation.
Yeah.
But I love that point, because the reality is, no, I'm not coming to every birthday party. I cannot. I cannot.
I want you though.
Yeah.
But I can't. And then if I come to yours,
right, you gotta go to everybody.
So just stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's times where God will lead me to go to someone's. Like, hey, this person needs you to be there. And I'll obey God. And people should be mature enough to understand that you have unrealistic expectations. There's those that believe that the church should pay their bills when lack comes or disaster hits.
Right.
And if the church doesn't pay their bills, they'll leave the church. I had someone leave our church one time because we didn't pay their lawyer bills. Wow. Well, the truth of the matter is, in order to do that, everyone needs to be paying their tithes. Everybody needs to be paying their offerings, and they don't. So where's the church getting this money from? That's an unrealistic expectation.
Man, where do I want to start?
In the Bible, they sold their stuff.
Right.
They sold their properties so that the church is able to do that. We don't have that going on now.
Right.
I mean, people barely pay their tithes. I mean, how's the church going to function and then take care of your bills?
Yeah.
And so there's some that get it, and those that get it, I believe, are called to you. Those that don't get it, I don't think that they are.
Yeah. What are some other, we'll say, healthy expectations? Because I want to go to the money part, because that's a big one.
Healthy expectations.
What are just like some we'll just say, in today's church climate,
Yeah,
today's church culture,
Right.
when you think about just a member who wants to go to a church, wants to be a part of a body,
Yes,
what are like just some healthy, this is what you can expect,
absolutely.
and this is what you just don't expect?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
what
good,
you
man.
think?
This is what I tell our church. I mean, I'll say it sometime, even in our messages. Come for the word. Come and get the word. Focus on the word. That's a healthy expectation that when I come to the head's church or any church that I'm going to get the word. The word is going to change my life. It's going to change my mindset. I tell them, don't focus on people. You get what I'm saying? Come for the word. Come for love. You get what I'm saying? There needs to be a culture of love. And I tell them, if anybody nasty to you, man, like really, really nasty, you let me know. We're going to get them out of here. I'm going to talk to you.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Pull you to the side. Let our staff talk to you. But if it's a repeated thing, then you can't stay here, because the church does need to be a place of love.
Absolutely.
And you should feel like it's family. And so that is our standards here. You're going to get the word. It's going to feel like family. You're going to be loved. And so we want that culture, but we're not perfect. We're striving to that. So the positive expectation will come get the word, come get love, and you're going to grow in God.
Yeah.
I can't promise anything outside of that.
Yeah. I agree. So what are just some negative expectations? So we said that, the pastor's going to come to all of my graduations and baby showers and all the important things in my life. Like, what are just some other, like, you setting yourself up for failure if you have this type of expectation with your church?
Wow. It's been a long time since I kind of operated out of that vein. I think it's having a personal relationship with the pastor. I think some people just want the pastor's attention.
Well, can I add to that answer?
Absolutely.
I think you can have that healthy expectation that you are going to have a personal relationship with the pastor if you're going to serve at a high level at the church.
Wow. That's it.
Like, I think, like, because there are a lot of people that I know that they want that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that.
Right.
But depending on the type of church that you're at, if you're at a church where there's only 50 people, you're more than likely to have that type of personal, I can just show up to church, talk to the pastor after. But if you go to church where there's 300, 400, 500,000, 10,000, the reality is, if you're only coming to Sunday service, you are setting yourself in frustration if you're like, I don't know my pastor doesn't know me, versus no, I serve, I'm the leader of the ushers, I lead the prayer ministry, I'm involved in the staff. Like, I think if you're that person where you're intentionally involved in the happenings of the church,
you're going to be close to the pastor.
Yeah, you're going to be close to the pastor. And I think this is where, just in my own personal opinion, where I wish more people understood that, because it's the same thing in business. You don't know the CEO of McDonald's, you don't know the CEO of Apple, you don't know the CEO of all these major companies, but I'm certain if you worked in the company or you worked in the organization and added value to it and contributed
value,
everything like that, I'm certain you got the CEO's number on speed dial, you got the CFO, the pastor, the leader, whoever it is. And I think that's why I want to add to your point, because there's a lot of people that have that that holds them up. I don't have a personal relationship with my pastor. Well, do you serve? Nah, serving is too much work.
And serve with the attitude of not serving to get a close relationship with the pastor, but serving because this is my heart posture with God. And that will ultimately lead to a close relationship with your pastor. Because those that serve the most are those that I am close to, with a positive attitude, because I don't do well with that.
Because you're partnering in a vision for a singular church. Like, obviously the pastor is the leader of it, but nothing's built alone. So it's like, if there are people around that serve and help just the vision and mission of this organization, this church, this body, then it's like, okay, like I can trust you. And to your point with that heart posture of, I'm not trying to get a staff position or whatever, just so that way I can get close and get pictures with and everything like that. It's like, no, like, my heart is for the growth of this place and its people. That makes it a lot easier as a pastor to say, okay, I can trust that person. They're going to understand. And again, not saying they're going to be perfect, but they can at least be trusted, and there will be that relationship where, you will go to graduations, you will, call on birthdays and all that different type of stuff. But there has to be a seed sown. There has to be some sort of investment, that actually is of value to both parties.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just think that's
on point.
Yeah. So
You're on point.
when we think about, obviously, some of those negative expectations, and one of the things that, even to go back, one of the things I wish more people did was take ownership of their church.
Okay.
Just because their church is a representation of them.
Absolutely.
Like we talk about how the church is a body of Christ, right? And people who are unchurched, they know what church you go to. So I use a simple example, like and this is more so just how I operate. Like if I cut grass, let's just say, if I cut grass and
I need my grass cut.
Need your grass cut?
Ready?
I'm gonna call someone for you to do it.
You said
I'm
you
terrible.
cut it.
I'm terrible. This is just hypothetical. But if I'm good at something, if I'm skilled at something, and let's say even out in the marketplace, in my job, whatever, like I'm known to be good at X, and I go to church and I see that my church isn't doing as well as it could in X, personally, I couldn't operate. It would bother me if, I'm good, for example, like I'm good at cameras, the media and everything like that, and I go to my church and we ain't got no good cameras. It's not good. There's no good social media presence. And like, meanwhile, I can go out in the world marketplace and get paid thousands of dollars and do this, that, and third. But it's like, my church doesn't have that. Like, I wish more people had that type of mentality where it's like, look, this is my church. Like, not saying I'm going to put all my time or I'm going to just completely, but it's like, my church should get.
They're takers.
Tell me more.
Some people are just takers. They are in it for what they can get and not what they can put back into it. So they're comfortable coming and getting a word and leaving out and never making any contribution because by nature, that's who they are.
So how do you change that though?
How do you change it? They have to love God for real. And they have to know what God gave up for them.
That's good.
And when you develop your relationship with God and you know what God has given up for you, there's nothing that you wouldn't do for him. David said, I will not offer God anything that hasn't first cost me something.
Talk about it.
And so I think that when you have a mentality to really serve God, love God, there's nothing you wouldn't do. And I think that is the responsibility of every believer in their church, is to what can I do to edify it, advance it, watch this, without being paid for it.
Talk about, look, and the thing is, and let's just be real.
Yeah.
If you grow it, there's opportunity for you to get paid for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's talk, because this is the space to just talk about it. Because, of course, to your point, most churches, they're going to operate off tithes and offerings, which we're going to get to that in a second as to why you should tithe to your church, because it is biblical. But just practically, like, if the church has no income, what can we do? Because people ain't got no problem complaining. The church don't do nothing for the community. The church don't do it. Well, food trucks cost. Everything costs. So the money's got to come from somewhere. And we got to keep the lights on in this place.
We about to go deep.
Go ahead.
All right, so here's the thing. Most churches don't run in excellence to attract the type of people that have the resources to be able to pay a staff.
Wait. Whoa. Most churches don't operate
in excellence to attract the people with the resources so that they'll be able to pay a staff and do things for community.
That makes me think of in Luke 16, where he talks about, if you can be trusted with few things, then I'll make you ruler over much.
Absolutely.
Like, because that excellence piece is important. Like, most churches, if they focus on a spirit of excellence, like just where you just steward well what you have. If you
God can send one person.
Right, and change the whole thing. One person, because you operate in excellence. For me, he's done that. One person can come in and change everything and sow a seed to just change the trajectory of the ministry simply because it was operated in excellence. They start late. How you going to start late? You start late to church. Nobody knows their position. Right. There's no structure. There's no order of service.
There's no order of service.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 hours long. Who wants to stay in church 4 hours?
Today,
But you know who wants to stay in church 4 hours? The people they cater to. A professional person has a life outside of church. They're not doing church for hours.
That's true.
But those that don't have no life, don't have no family, and church is their everything, they're going to run and shout all day long.
Those are people that they use like church like a drug almost.
Absolutely.
Like they come to Sunday services and that's like their high on the week.
And those churches are the churches that are struggling, I guarantee it, financially.
Man, that's good. And you know, especially today, when we look at just the state of people today,
Yeah.
the reality is folk got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you think about, you know, the economy and responsibilities, family and everything like that.
Yeah.
And this is my opinion.
Yeah.
People ain't got time to be in church all day.
Yeah.
Because I know I don't. And I love church. I love church with all my heart. I love Jesus with all my heart.
Yeah.
But I don't need to be in no 3-hour Sunday service every week.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that if the Spirit's really moving and we just go there, that's assumed. That's assumed. We got to make sure we make that disclaimer because, you know, they might
they're going to say something, but it's all right.
And it's cool. But, you know, I don't need that to be every week.
Yeah.
3 hours, like, you know what I mean? On top of, and I'm someone, obviously you serve, I serve, but it's like, if I'm already here from the prep, if service starts at 8:30, I'm getting here at 6:30.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that I'm be here from 5:30 all the way to about 9:30, almost like, or I should say like 10 o'clock? Like, that's a lot.
Here's my thing. The same people hold up the service every single week. Shouting, dancing, speaking in tongues, falling out. Now, okay, but you don't speak to nobody after church. You mean as hell. You always broke. Your relationships with everybody's dysfunctional.
Right.
And you come to church and you shout and you dance and you turn around every single week. With all of that spirit and all that power and all that carrying on, shouldn't you be in a different place in life?
Talk about it.
I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No, listen.
I don't understand.
It does. I don't either. But I think more people need to just look at it. Like one of the things I taught on this in a Bible study recently, where I said that church, you should have the expectation that your church is a place of transformation.
Yeah.
Like to your point, you should not be going to the same church for 6 months, even a year, and you the same.
Absolutely.
You dealing with the same stuff. You got the same triggers. Like that should not be.
But then how can they change? Now I'm going to get in trouble. This is not you. This is me. How can they change when they come to church, they're being hollered at every week? They're being, now nothing's wrong with that, but teach me something. What is the pastor giving them that they can apply to their life?
Yeah.
Oh, we had church today. You had church with what was said.
I don't know. It was good though.
But it was good. If you don't know what was said at church Sunday, on Monday, you need to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. Now, okay, just as pushback, there is we'll call it traditional perspective, who is so much against the shouting and hollering. What if there are times and moments where people just need that encouragement?
And that's fine. Nothing's wrong with a hoop. Nothing's wrong with a holler. Gilbert Patterson's like one of my favorite, Bishop Patterson is one of my favorite preachers. Bishop Noel Jones is like,
really good. Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, that's his bag.
But they teach you something.
Right.
Go ahead and perform. Bring it home in the end. But teach me something.
Right.
Give me some revelation. Give me some life application. Don't give me a whole bunch of screaming and holler at me.
Yeah.
And you don't see really successful churches where the pastor does screaming and hollering.
It's true.
You don't see it.
It's true. But now you also don't see, in those same successful churches, you don't see the pastor exegeting the text every week either.
No.
Like because there's a community of people that's like, well, if you aren't giving them the Hebrew and the origin of the text, then it's watered down gospel. And I'm just like,
that's what they call me. I get it.
Yeah,
no, seriously.
I believe it.
You know what I'm saying? They feel like, he doesn't preach Bible. Well, the truth of the matter is when you're dealing with, you have to know your audience. And if your audience is unchurched, the majority of your audience is unchurched, you don't just start giving them steak. You got to give them milk.
Right.
And then you lead them.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Some of us need some basics. That's just for me.
I agree. There is a level, like I don't care how long you've been in Christ. Like sometimes you do need to revisit the basics,
Yeah.
you know, where it doesn't need to always be like super high level,
Yeah.
high concept. Sometimes you just need to go back to the bare foundation level of what being a Christian is.
So I guess our point is, if you're going to shout and you're going to dance, at least get the word.
Yeah. That's important.
That's it.
That's important. Now, I don't do a good shout personally.
I don't know how to shout either.
You better at it than me.
No, I don't have no rhythm when it comes down to church. I don't know. I've been in church all my life, but I don't. No. Like some people got that church dance, and they be, side to side, and I ain't got that.
I don't have that jig. But I'm saying from a preaching perspective, you got the hooping though.
Oh no, I can't. I'm dramatic in my preaching.
Okay.
But I can't. I wished I could do that.
No, if you do that, you're gonna have an empty church.
Yes, I can't.
Let me tell you that right now. If I know you're gonna have an empty church if you do that.
But I think that's dope as long as you teach me something.
But I think it's impressive. That breath control to be able to do that, that's a lot.
Seriously, that's good. Just teach me. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
People do.
However you got to do it, just give me something I can go home and change my life.
So you being a pastor, and this is kind of shifting, but kind of in that same vein.
Right.
You being a pastor that is unapologetically you're going to come in with the loud suit. You're going to come with the hat backwards.
Who said I wear loud suits?
Dog, I follow you and I can say, man.
Loud?
Loud. You wore something the past Sunday. It was like a red suit, something like that. It was clean though.
Keep going.
It was clean. Oh yeah, the yellow. I saw that.
All right, cool.
I'm impressed. No, listen, I'm saying that in admiration. Like I'd be like, I scroll down, I make sure I'm looking at.
I got
Pastor Clarence did that.
But
to someone who is unchurched, someone who is, we'll call it a baby Christian, whatever, they can look at you as a pastor, and they could make the argument, I wouldn't agree with it, that, he's doing too much, he's just too performative and everything like that. What are your thoughts just around people putting too much focus on the pastor's persona, too much focus on the pastor's presence? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't have any. I really don't. I really don't have any. I really don't, man. To be honest with you, I really don't. Years ago I did. Now I don't. I just feel like those that like you will be drawn to you, and those that don't will be drawn away from you. I don't think about that.
Well, speak about it in a general sense then. Not even just like to you, but just in general. Because, people have their opinions about, these different celebrity pastors and what they're wearing and how they preaching.
I got you. So here's the thing. And I think the reason why I don't have an opinion on that, because I have fruit.
Those that are with me, you identify them by their fruit.
You identify them by your fruit. So regardless of what he wears or what this person thinks, what is the evidence that they are who they say they are? It's in the pews. It's in the lives changing. It's in what we're doing in our community. So I don't have to address any of that because your work does your talking.
Absolutely. And that's honestly,
Man, that was good. Yeah. I felt that one.
That was good. No, it does. Because I think people miss that.
People
really do just overlook that. Because I think, you look at
that's good, man.
The bigger
I need that clip. That's my first clip.
Oh, for sure. We'll make it happen. But no, I think a lot more people need to look at it from that lens. Because it's like, and again, it's kind of like a don't judge a book by its cover type of thing. But it's just like, no, look at the evidence. Look at what has been done. Look at what is being accomplished. Regardless, if the pastor's wearing a super loud suit or a real basic fit, whatever it is, look at the people, look at the building, look at what the outreach and the things that are being accomplished from their leadership. I think more people need to pay attention to that because, and I love that we mentioned it earlier, but just how in the Bible it speaks about how you, I'm paraphrasing here, but you will be identified by your fruit. Yeah. And that's one of the things, I used to, maybe 2 years ago, I used to kind of get caught up in what social media is saying about certain pastors. Be like, yeah, no, that's kind of crazy. Why would they do that? Yeah. But once I really, again, got in my own word and really just started to see how they're really, as a pastor, someone's always going to say something. So the more I learned that, it kind of changed my perspective on, what people had to say about the Mike Todds of the world, the Jakes of the world, and all these bigger pastors. Yeah. When it's just these guys have too much fruit for this to be as devious, as everyone wants to make it out to be.
And they have a different audience.
Right, totally different audience.
Mike Todd has an audience, and his audience understands him. If I'm the unchurched, and that's my audience, well, I can't expect a traditional person to receive me.
Right.
That's not my audience. Bishop Jakes has his audience. You get what I'm saying? Steve Furtick have his audience. We're all a body of Christ, of course, but there's different audiences. There's different likes. There's different preferences. Yeah. And so I admire a pastor that can show their personality on stage. Not everybody can do that.
Absolutely.
Here's a God's honest truth, man. This is a true story. I have a friend that is very, very popular in the Church of God in Christ. And he said to me, I wished I could wear earring. I wished I could wear my hat backwards. I wish that I could go to church and just talk like you.
Wow.
He says, I have to hoop. I have to look a certain way. And just because someone presents themselves a certain way does not mean that that's authentically who they are. So I could appreciate a person who's authentically, unapologetically who they are.
That's good.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think if we just love people, all people, give them grace. The reason why I dress the way I dress is because when I was in school, I only had 2 outfits. And I was teased by those 2 outfits. And I had to wear them every other day.
Yeah.
That's all I had. So dressing was, it was, man, if I ever get money or if I ever get clothes, I could just imagine myself dressing like this.
Yeah.
And so I like fashion. It's an expression of who I am, but it doesn't take away from my ministry. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so clothes and dressing for me was something that I couldn't do. So I think a lot of times if you know people's story, you'd be probably a little less inclined to judge them.
Yeah, but I
don't care that much.
And I do also think that's why I think more pastors, and obviously we're here in this setting, should put themselves in positions to be able to talk about it. Because obviously, like, you wouldn't be able to share that type of story from the pulpit on a Sunday.
Well, I would.
Well, I know you would, but like, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, like, being able to be in these types of conversations where we just talk, like, it's not, there's
the world wouldn't be able to hear that. This is going to the world.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Whereas obviously the people who come on a Sunday, they're coming for the word.
Well, you wear muscle shirts, so now,
man, I don't wear
no, you do. A lot of times you do. So what do you say about that? Because where I come from, that's fleshly. And, you know, why don't you wear some loose?
No, listen, for me, I work out. So I'm going to make, like, especially now that I'm a retired athlete, I'm going to work out and I want folk to see, like, I work out. That's it.
But isn't that flesh?
No, I don't think so. Because, again, it's me. Like, I work out for me. Yeah. So I know that when I look in the mirror and I'm putting my fit on and I see, okay, the muscles working, looking how it needs to look, I look how I need to look.
So what do you say to those that say he shouldn't wear these type of clothes because it's too form-fitting or it's too tight or it's a distraction from the word?
Oh, well, I would tell them to go listen to somebody else, honestly. Like, that's where I'm at now. There was a point in time where I'd really, like, be conflicted and be like, oh, man, like, maybe I should, you know, wear a little baggy this, a little bit. But now, and again, it's because I have a better understanding of, and this is in my role as a pastor, at least as I'm young in my career to become a pastor, I'm not going to please everybody. Because they're, at the end of the day.
I'm glad you know that now, seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm glad you know that now. I didn't know that before. That's where I was. I tried to please everyone because that was my heart.
Yeah.
And the more I tried to please, the more they misunderstood. And so this guy that you see now that seems so strong and so unapologetic is because he spent the majority of his life being misunderstood. And he decided, you know what? I'm just going to do this God's way. I'm going to be happy. So I'm glad you on that road, brother.
Man, I appreciate that.
Seriously.
Well, because, you know, it's definitely work, internal work that needs to be happening. One of the things that has helped me a lot is just validating myself in Christ. But even just practically.
What does that look like? Validating yourself in Christ.
Man, for me, it was just getting into his word. What does he say about me? Yeah. Like, what does God say about me? And actually spending time with God. Asking the hard questions, being vulnerable with God about this is how I'm feeling. What, you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, it was just having those very intimate conversations with God. And it's honestly because of those seasons in my life where I was, and I still do, but have those just like, I ask God the hard questions. I think about the hard questions. So now when it comes to hard questions like, man, am I actually as good as I say I am? Or whatever the case is, right? Everyone has different versions of it. I'm not afraid of it. Like, I'm not afraid of asking myself, yo, is that actually in line? Because I'm basing it off of whatever God says. And because I have those conversations with God,
Right.
he answers me.
Right.
You know, if I'm God, I really don't feel real confident. Like, I feel less than right now. Like, help me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just those types of just intimate conversations with God. He speaks because he knows I need it.
Here's another thing, and I know that you, the one that is asking the questions, but I like to turn it around. I think that you're a handsome guy, attractive guy. You know, you just got married.
Hallelujah.
You're younger than I am. How do you deal with living holy, living for God at such a young age when you're like in your prime? And to become a pastor, it's a greater level of accountability. How do you maintain yourself?
Basically, by being very clear on what my standard is. Like, I'm someone that, you know, I describe it as I've seen things come together and I've seen it all fall within a day. And because I've seen that in so many different areas of my life, whether it's from my own experience or from the experiences of others, it made me realize that, like, okay, number one, I'm not gonna be able to figure this out by myself. Like, this isn't a, you know, self-made type of journey type of thing. Because I think just that narrative is false. No one's self-made. But for me, it was through God's grace, but just my own understanding of, okay, God, you are my foundation. And I know that if I'm really going to walk in all that I know you have for me,
Right.
and because I've spent time with God and he's shown me all that he has for me, and it's just a matter of me staying on course, not being perfect, but just staying on course, for me, that made it a lot easier to put any type of boundary, making any hard decision, whether it was celibacy, whether it was cutting folk off, whatever it is. It made it easier just because it's like, no, I'm clear that if I try to do this by myself, I'm a while out. But if I have given myself those rules, if I give myself those barriers that I stay in, which in my case was the word, and just getting a better understanding of, okay, what does that look like? Knowing what God has for me.
So when it gets hard for you, when it gets difficult, you remind yourself of your boundaries.
Absolutely.
And you calculated the cost.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah. And depending on the area, right? Like, when you calculate the costs, well, let me back up. For me, calculating the cost is a very quick and simple process. Meaning, I know the cost of this because I've stumbled.
Right.
Or I know the cost of this just because I've seen somebody else stumble.
Absolutely.
So for me, whenever I'm in a spot where I'm struggling or I'm in the decision of, do I go right, do I go left, I just count the costs, and it's like, okay, I've done the wrong thing, or what I thought was right, but it was actually wrong, and I knew it was wrong, but I was trying to convince myself out.
Right.
When I went that way, it ended up worse for me.
Right.
Or I've seen somebody else do this, and it didn't work out for them, and I don't want to end up like that. So we gonna go with that, because you know what I find is a lot of people know what the right thing is to do. Just in life, right? And I don't need to necessarily preach it, but it's like most people know what they should be doing. They know what they shouldn't be doing. They know what's right. They know what's wrong.
Sure.
Most people have a general understanding.
Right.
So with that in mind, it's just like, I just live my life in a way of, okay, I want to just make as many right decisions as possible. That's it. And you could put that in the church context of, I want to make as many God-honoring decisions as possible.
Glory to God.
To me, it's as simple as that. And I think sometimes we try to complicate it too much.
Absolutely. It's good, man.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
You done?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. I'm glad you got a spot. So as a pivot a little bit, I want to go back to the church and money piece.
Yes.
I want to go back to the church and money piece because I do believe that there is a misunderstanding when it comes to just the relationship between a partner of a church, member of a church, the pastor, the church body overall, and money.
Yeah.
So let's just from a foundational place talk with just your thoughts on just how. Let's start with how money should work in a church. Just in your brain, this is how it should work.
Well, I feel that you should give God a tithe, which is 10% of your giving. And there are some people that are against tithes because they feel as though that tithe was part of the law. And I feel as though that if they gave God 10% under the law, then how much more should we give him under grace? Right. I also feel that when you go out to eat, They're like 10% of your check, 18%, 20%, 22%. They want more than God.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So I feel like you should give God a tithe. You should give God an offering. It's what helps the church.
Right.
You know, some people say God doesn't need our money. Well, if we're going to operate in this house, then it takes money.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I think that the church should be good stewards of God's money. I think you should be transparent, you know, having annual reports. I do think that you should operate in integrity with the
Absolutely.
church money. Now, when it comes down to pastors and money, a lot of times people think that pastors steal church money, and some of them do.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, there's crooks in every industry and every career. There's going to be someone who does something that is not right.
Right.
But then there are some that do the right thing. You get what I'm saying? And I don't think that people understand that the church is not the pastor's primary source of income. Some of them have multiple streams of income. Some of them have real estate. You know, I have real estate. People, there's some that have book deals.
Right.
There's some that actually go to work. So the pastor doesn't necessarily have to take the church money. And I think that some of them should be entitled to a salary. Why not?
I agree.
You're counseling people. You're marrying people. That's time. So if you worked on a job, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Talk about it.
So where's the money going to come from? You'll pay a therapist. You'll pay a barber. Why not pay the person that is giving you, speaking life into you, giving you life principles, giving you life applications? It's a problem for a preacher. Unfortunately, here's my thing, man. A rapper has multiple producers, some of them on their tracks, singers. A pastor doesn't have that. They don't have ghostwriters. You got to literally spend hours working on a message.
Yep.
Then you got to figure out a way to deliver it, make it creative. You get what I'm saying? And then when you stop that week, you got to go right back into the frame of mind for Bible study, right back for that next Sunday.
Right.
You don't think that that deserve some type of seed, some type of income?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And for me, I don't know about anyone else, but for me, and this is the God's honest truth, I never really took a salary from my church. Our church gave me love offerings. And when our church was able to put me on salary, this is the God's honest truth. I wanted to do something in the church. I gave it back. And God blessed me because I'm the biggest seed sower in the kingdom.
Yep.
So although I agree with the pastor being on salary, I personally didn't have to take one. I was a big giver.
Yeah. But that's also because you, as a pastor, have worked yourself in a position where it wasn't like a mandatory, like, all right, I kind of have a family to take care of, so I need to take the salary. And like, yes, I deserve it. But you basically worked yourself in a position where it was a choice. And, you know, I know that I'm the same way, where it's like, I know with everything I'm building, I want to put myself in a similar position where I don't have to.
Right.
And I think even backing up to just people's perception,
Yeah.
I do think there's a large number of people who mismanage their money.
Yeah.
And they think that targeting the tithe is just like an easy cop out, where like they don't have a budget, they have no idea where their money's actually going, and so they just like, well, it's because I got to give this tithe, and the pastor's going to use it to drive a nice fancy car. And it's just like, no, you just have a budgeting issue. Like tithing really is not your issue, but
Absolutely.
because tithing's the easy target, that's what we're going to focus on for whatever the reason.
Yeah.
It's
It's a heart thing, bro.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It's a hard thing, but I also think it's definitely a hard thing, but it's also just understanding sowing and reaping.
Absolutely.
Like understanding that, listen, if I sow it, I can have an expectation that it's going to come back to me.
Absolutely.
And I think too many people who are unfamiliar, they struggle with it because they view it as like some mystical, it needs to happen within the next 48 hours type of thing. And, you know, I think it's unfortunate. Like, I think that's one of the things that I think hurts the church. Well, it hurts the church, but it's not the church's fault because it's the people's heart posture.
It's the hard question.
Right? Because I'm certain that there are a lot of pastors, there are a lot of churches who want to do more in their community. But the reality is, and this is where, like, let's just take it down a level from spiritual. Practically, it doesn't work in the budget. Like, financially, we can't do it. Like, we're trying to keep the lights on. The mortgage on this building is $7,000 and the lights are $1,500. And we do have an admin that we pay something solid, right? So we're not like disrespectful, we're paying her like $20. No, we pay her like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like.
And they feel like if the pastor drives a nice car, then why can't the church do this? Well, that's that man's life.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
They never say anything about Jay-Z's plane. Lil Wayne's Rolls Royce.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But the pastor, if he got a Cadillac, that's a problem.
Right. I would say he'll have a Lexus. And we're like, wait a minute.
It's a problem. You get what I'm saying? Now forget it. You got a Mercedes or BMW, don't wear Gucci.
Right. Oh God.
You get what I'm saying? Like it is taboo. I think they want us broke.
Absolutely. No, see, I don't subscribe to that poverty Christianity. I don't subscribe. I don't.
No, I do. I think they want us broke because if I came with holes in my shoes and the same clothes every week, they'll talk about me then. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. But that's why, to your point, it's like, man, I'd rather just be walking in prosperity, working the same principles that I'm trying to teach y'all. And if y'all want to get on board, the people that, and again, there's evidence behind it.
The people that get on board too, man, what they don't realize, the pastor's not the only one in the church that's blessed. I have people in our church that whatever I have, they have. They have nice cars. They have nice houses. Some of them have businesses. Some of them are far beyond me. You get what I'm saying? It's the level of exposure. It really is. It's the level of exposure. And if anybody's stealing the church money, shame on them. So I would tell people, you do what you're supposed to do by God. And whatever that pastor is doing, if they're doing the wrong thing, that God is going to do.
Right. God will deal with that. And
don't let that be your excuse to not do the right thing.
I tell people that too, where it's like, listen, at the end of the day, giving is a heart posture thing, and that's between you and God.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're big at that at our church, our cathedral, where it's like, listen, we're not forcing anybody to give.
Right.
We're going to stress the importance of you giving because that is between you and God.
Yeah.
But we're not going to hound anybody. We're not going to beg because either you're going to get with the principles or you're not.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we have enough history and evidence of people who are blessed that we will bet the bank on. No, when you sow, you will reap.
But bro, think about this. You wearing what you want to wear, what you worked for. And when you step out and people see you driving or living a certain way, they label you a thief. Imagine how that feels.
Yeah, man.
You're doing all this from your heart. You're loving people. You're praying for people. You're showing up. You're counseling them. All of this for free. Most of the times it's for free.
Yeah.
And then when you go out and you wear something nice, people label you as a thief.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's deep.
What if he wasn't? What if he's just blessed?
Yeah.
When you use your gift, it automatically qualifies you to be blessed. There's times where people have just hand me thousands of dollars themselves. There's times where a person hand me $5,000. They whole income tax here. This is for you. There was a person that told me, "Hey man, what kind of car you want?" I said, "I want a Mercedes." They said, "Go to the dealership." I went to the dealership. I picked out the car. They wired the money to the bank.
Wow.
Wired the money to the bank.
That's blessed right there.
I want you to go on a trip. Where you want to go to? Pastor, go. I'm paying for you to go to Miami. The Bible says when Joseph used his gift, he was brought into the presence of Pharaoh. Pharaoh gave him his ring, jewelry, bling. He gave him fine linen, probably was equivalent to Fendi or Gucci today.
Right, absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? He just came from the dungeon, but he used his gift. And when you use your gift, God will command people to be a blessing to you. You don't have to steal nothing from no one.
Right.
The blessings of God is going to chase you down. Now, people that are in tune with God and they understand kingdom and biblical principles, they get that. If you don't, it's a mystery.
Whew. That's good. And the blessings of the Lord maketh rich
And addeth no
and
sorrow.
addeth no sorrow.
Absolutely.
Simple. And when you understand that,
Yes.
you're not going to be two-faced when you're in church, face all screwed up because you behind because you don't budget well, but the pastor's driving well. And I think another thing too, just even because we're on the topic, there are too many people expecting for the church and the pastor to give them fish when the church is trying to teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a really big thing, right? Where it's like they ain't got no problem asking, hey, can you pay my rent? Hey, can you pay some tuition? Hey, I need a little bit of money here. I need a little bit of help here, as opposed to, as a pastor, I can imagine there are pastors out here that identify with this.
Yeah.
I host financial conferences.
Yeah.
I bring in people who talk about finances. I preach 3 finance series throughout the year.
Absolutely.
And I do all this, and don't nobody show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But y'all ain't got no problem sending the email, hey, can you help me out with this?
Absolutely.
And it's like, people need to understand, no, the church is here to help you grow, basically to give you the tools that you can go fish.
And when my pastor is prosperous, I can be prosperous because he can give me the tools on how he got prosperous. That's another thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't want anyone leading me to a place they haven't been.
That's true. Now, okay, so let me play devil's advocate a little bit on this topic.
Please do.
Do you think, and this is something I've been thinking about a little bit for the past couple of weeks, do you think that pastors need to be a little bit more transparent about the outside streams of income as opposed to previously? Because, for example, here's what I mean. Before meaning, we'll call it 3 years ago, a pastor can just say, I run multiple businesses. I don't really, like, I have other investments. Right? He'll just say that and like, that's it. Okay, the pastor's doing well, but he's just saying, I got to say. Do you think that today pastors need to be more transparent about, okay, I run X company. This is what I do. This is what it produces. I own X amount of doors. This is what it produces for me. Like, how do you feel about that just in terms of
I don't think
the
it
pastor's
should. It's
transparency?
none of their business. That's my business.
True.
Yeah. Why do I have to tell you where I own?
So what about, and I agree with you, but I'm just for conversation's sake. What about if that helps in the person's transformation? Where, like, for example, right? If someone comes in with just a super, super hardened heart.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think for most of the time when people come to church, they have super hardened hearts where they can't hear.
Right.
What if that transparency is what breaks that up for them to actually receive?
Well, if you got to be nosy in order to receive, you ain't going to receive from me. You get what I'm saying? Because that's just, I don't need to tell you that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying nothing is wrong with it, but I think it's up to that individual person. For me, I would, because my life is opened. You get what I'm saying? Whatever, I'll tell you, that's what I would do because that's me. But not everybody needs to do that.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Some people might have got an inheritance.
Yeah.
They don't need to say, oh, my money came from my grandmother, because that word might get out and the family members get involved. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't tell everything to everyone. And that's just me. But I would tell it, but I don't think they need to.
I agree. Yeah, I'm actually, because I'm
not letting nobody force me into telling where I get my money from.
Well, it's for life. If it's for life change, I mean, what about for the people? Okay, cool. You don't have to share your personal. But what about the people that are like, well, why don't you share the church's information? What about the church's revenue and the profits and where the money's going? And, what about that? Like, do you feel that today it helps? We'll say helps. We won't even say it's maybe binary yes or no.
Yeah.
Just, do you think it helps for the churches if they're more transparent about?
No. No, you know what? I do think the church should be transparent.
Yeah.
I do. You get what I'm saying? When we take up building funds, we let the people know how much we raise. We let them know what we have. I think that if you're doing things right, people don't mind giving. Yeah. I'm not sticking my middle finger up. I'm gonna
say he might have thought that was a setup question. That was his way of getting to.
No, man, bro, seriously, I think that you should be transparent with the people. I do. And I think that it would be healthy for churches to have meetings maybe a couple of times a year, a quarter, and just let the people know what's going on, especially those that give.
Yeah. I think, and my take on it is that there should be like a selective transparency.
Yeah.
Like, I think if there are certain projects like a building or a mission that we're funding or something like that,
Absolutely.
I think that should require, shouldn't even say require, but that there should be transparency there where it's like, hey, we're about to get this new property.
Yeah.
It's X amount of square feet, this many acreages, like it's gonna have this, gonna have this, like let's start giving towards it.
Yeah.
We're 50,000 away from our goal, we're 1,000 away, like those types of things. I do think transparency helps.
I think from my experience, the more transparent you are, the more people would give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so my question then becomes, what about, I do think, let me add context to my question. There does come a point as the church grows where it almost becomes, we'll say, inappropriate to share the normal financial happenings of the church. Here's who I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the staff members who, the music directors, the producers and everything like that. Like there's paid staff, like this is what they do. I do think that it could be inappropriate to, let's say you have those quarterly meetings, like, okay, here's where all the money's going, right? If you put on like an Excel sheet up on the screen that lets everybody know this is how much so-and-so you see running around here is making. If I'm that person, I'm tight. Personally.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like at a certain point it's like, all right, now this just needs to be behind closed doors? Or
Well, I haven't got to that point financially in our church yet.
you on your way though?
So you have to ask me that this time next year.
That's a
You
bet.
know what I'm saying? Because we don't have that much money where we need everybody to know. You know what I'm saying? So, if we showed them what we get, they might give some more. So we're not there. But to those that are there, and I'm speaking out of just, I have no evidence of it. I'm not at that level. I would be tight if my salary was up there.
Yeah, I would say I'd be upset.
You get what I'm saying?
I'd be upset. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Especially like if that's like my main
Yeah.
stream of income, like that's how I feed my family. Don't put my stuff just on the screen.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Your shorty over there like, "Boo, I ain't know you made that much money. Really?
Yeah,
The church
listen,
did it?
yeah, that's
Tell them to hire me."
yeah, that'd be a little much. I think
you
that
told me you was broke.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's the point where it kind of you have to, and I mean that's just the essence of leadership. But that's for another conversation. But in terms of going back to just,
Are we going out to eat, or you got to go? Because I'm hungry.
you hungry?
I'm very hungry. But go ahead.
What time is it? How long have we been going?
To be honest, we have literally 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
We've been out, and I think it's getting twice with.
For real? Oh, we've been going.
We've been going.
All
This
right.
is good. Don't cut this out.
No,
This is authentic.
Oh, yeah, no, this definitely is authentic. I mean, shucks. If that's it, is there anything else you want to share? Anything? What in culture right now angers you in church culture?
Oh my goodness. Now you're about to make me anger some people. What angers me in church culture?
Let's go. Get us out of here, Pastor Clarence. Get me out of here, Pastor Clarence.
What angers me
Yeah.
is that people don't follow instructions. They don't know how to be submitted to leadership. They want to do what they want to do within the vision of someone else. And you can't do it. God gave the vision to the pastor. And your job is to follow the vision of the pastor, no matter how you feel about it. And when you do something contrary to the pastor's vision, that's demonic.
Ooh, that's strong. They gonna say that's strong, Pastor
I don't
Clarence.
care what they say. It's demonic. It's not God. A house divided against itself can't stand.
Yep.
So if I'm trying to do something that's contrary than what the head is doing, that is demonic. The thing is, they don't realize it is.
True. Yeah. You know what angers me?
What angers you?
Laziness in the church.
That's demonic.
I can't stand it. It's certainly not biblical.
It's not biblical.
I cannot stand laziness in the church. And it's like people can be in excellence in every other area of life, but as soon as you throw a church title on it, oh my God, it's like you get the barest of minimum.
Word, absolutely.
Oh man, I can't stand that.
Yeah.
Man, who are some just we'll say influential pastors for you that have helped you grow and obviously lead others? But like who are some of those for you?
Any pastor that built their church from the ground up, I have respect for. because it is the hardest thing that you can do.
Absolutely.
Without outside funding, outside resources to build a church from the ground up, to build trustees, to build deacons, it is hard. You get what I'm saying? It is like building Apple from the ground up, depending upon how big you want to go.
Yeah.
So anyone who has done that, I have a lot of respect for. Joyce Myers, like I love Joyce Myers. She's practical. She's hilarious.
Yeah, she is good.
My pastor, Bishop Del Bronner, he's a genius. Who else do I listen to? There's another African apostle. I really don't know his name, but I listen to him. I think his name is Apostle Michael, someone. I don't know his last name, but he is phenomenal. I've been watching him lately. I fall asleep to him.
Okay.
Because he's really that good. And that's it.
Okay.
Now, there are pastors that I like, Taekwon Sparks. You know, he's been here. He's a phenomenal preacher. You know, Pastor Andrew Carter. You know what I mean? I like him. He's a friend of mine. You know, I like you, man. I think you're no, seriously. I think you're phenomenal. I think that you are a genius. You get what I'm saying? I wished I had your mindset at your age, and the sky's the limit for you. You are eloquent. You know how to speak. You get what I'm saying? You just know how to do everything very well.
Thank you.
So I'm influenced by you, and I'm influenced by any person that has a dream and that's working towards it, even if you're not a pastor.
Yeah.
It's very hard out here. Very, very, very hard.
Yeah, it takes real work. And I mean, I would definitely agree with you just in that sense that people that know how to build stuff, like you have my instant ultimate respect.
Yeah.
Like, and when I say build stuff, for you, you said from the ground up. For me, it's like if you take any organization thing from, even if it was level 5, and within a year of your leadership, you take that thing to 20, 25, just unseen levels. Oh, you have my ultimate respect.
Nice.
And I think, you know, easy example, like we both know Joel Osteen, perfect example of that. Because some people might be like, well, he didn't start the church. Well, the church wasn't what it was when he got started to what it is now. Like there's a clear difference. And of course, what his father did was still groundbreaking.
Absolutely.
But you can't deny the impact.
Yeah. And he stayed true to himself.
Absolutely.
And he's one person that I listen to in my car.
Yeah.
You're always going to feel good.
That's
no
a
matter
fact.
what you're going through, he's going to make you feel like you can win.
Absolutely. And I think that even goes back to what we talked about in terms of just pastors. Like sometimes people, obviously, and it's kind of twofold where they learn something from him. Yeah. But sometimes people just need to know it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
you got this. Like sometimes, like I found that goes a long way for some people where they just need that encouragement.
I think we all do. And I think that's what makes him relevant, because we all need encouragement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, man, I don't got nothing else. I think we good. I think we hit everything. We talked about the church hurt.
I think so.
Talked about the money in church. You were able to share your heart towards all these topics. I think we're good.
And I got to interview you, which was great.
That's always a bonus, right? Yeah. All right. Listen, that's a wrap. Oh.